the US-Mexico drug tunnel. With a length measuring over 4 football fields running through the border of Mexico and California, equipped with reinforced walls and a full supply of electricity, this is one of the biggest yet. So how did it happen? Federal agents of the United States of America had been investigating a building that was formerly used to smuggle cocaine. Some measurements of the tunnel were taken, and it was reported that the tunnel was a mind-boggling 61 feet deep and 4 feet wide. But this drug bust did not just come with sheer luck, but was facilitated by the henchmen involved with the trafficking. How, you may ask? Officers noticed that various vehicles kept swarming in and out of the property on the 13th of May. Instinct and suspicion kicking in, they stopped and searched these vehicles, after which they proceeded to arrest them. According to the attorney's office, 799 kilograms of cocaine, 74 kilograms of methamphetamine, and a few kilograms of heroin were confiscated. Of course, the perpetrators, counting 6 in number, were arrested. Do you think that's a lot? We're just getting started. Number 9. The Colombian bananas. Colombia made headlines when it recorded the largest drug bust in the country's history. Of course, no one would have expected drugs to be lying around, but a banana farm was completely unexpected. More than 8 tons of cocaine were found across 4 banana farms, which were quite close to the routes used in smuggling drugs to the United States. Apparently, the reason for the drug bust was linked to some beef between the police and the Gulf clan. The owner of the stash, Dario Usuga, who was also the leader of the clan, had a $5 million bounty on his head. He was eventually captured and arrested in October 2021 and extradited to the United States in May 2022. The value of the seized drugs is over 70 times the bounty on his head, costing about $360 million. Number 8. Amphetamine pills of Saudi Arabia. Confiscating a few pills is a regular occurrence when it comes to drug trafficking, but 46 million is a whole different ballgame. Men suspected of smuggling drugs were traced to a warehouse after arriving at Riyadh Dry Port. 8 of the suspects were then arrested after being caught with narcotics worth a whopping $1 billion United States dollars. Wow, that's a lot of money's worth of drugs. Although the pills have not been named and not much is known about the source of origin of the shipment, it is known that Saudi Arabia is the largest pill market, known as Captagon. If you have been enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button and smash the notification bell so you can keep up with more shocking and bizarre crime stories. Moving on. Number 7. The Afghan military bunkers. Weighing over 38 school buses and costing almost $400 million, at least 200 tons of hashish were confiscated by Afghan troops, which seriously affected the troops that benefited from the trade. The hashish was found buried in the trenches of the Spin Boldak region in southern Afghanistan, and the officials, instead of confiscating it, decided to set the trenches on fire using explosives in an attempt to destroy the drugs. Over 4,500 kilograms of opium was also seized in Helmand province by the police, which was worth a mind-blowing 30 million United States dollars. How crazy is that? Number 6. The Mexican Cowabungal, where Mexico's biggest ever drug bust happened when about 105 tons of marijuana was confiscated. So how did this happen? After a deadly gun battle between the police and drug thugs which caused a few injuries, 11 people were arrested. A thorough investigation was carried out, and marijuana was discovered in 6 cargo containers with a value of over £210 million. Acting on information from the suspects, a few additional homes were raided where smaller amounts of drugs were found. The drugs were packaged with differently colored packaging and labeled with various phrases. Some of the packages were decorated with pictures of Homer Simpson, a cartoon character from The Simpsons. Now, maybe that was meant to be a distraction, but not a very wise one if you ask me. Some packages had inscriptions which, when translated into English, means, "I'm gonna get high, dude." Other parcels had names of animals like wolves, while some had symbols like arrows. Those were probably used to identify the parcels and to decipher their delivery destinations. Number 5. We have the United Kingdom's biggest haul. In 2015, one of the biggest drug seizures in the United Kingdom took place, causing 2 Turkish men to be arrested. After thorough interrogation, the men later confessed to their attempts to smuggle over 3 tons of cocaine into the United Kingdom. The estimated cost of these drugs was about $697 million. So you might be wondering, how were these men caught? Well, in the port of Aberdeen, 2 government officials decided to search a vessel and eventually found the hidden drugs. After further investigation, it was concluded that the Turkish mafia and the Albanian mafia were involved. Number 4. The Texas Double Bust. Why the name Double Bust? In 1989, 2 separate drug busts were executed on the same day, one taking place off the Texas coast on a Panamanian vessel and the other taking place on land, amounting to over 13 tons of drugs. So what exactly happened? During the day, a Coast Guard boarded a Panamanian vessel and while on board discovered large amounts of cocaine weighing about 5 tons. A few days earlier, some agents had breached a warehouse in the suburbs of Los Angeles and discovered 20 tons of cocaine. The amount of cocaine found on the Panamanian vessel was said to have an estimated worth of $1 billion. Wow! Some reports that were later released mentioned that the investigators, after receiving intel, expected to find about 1,500 pounds of cocaine in the house. However, on getting there, almost 18,000 pounds were discovered, which was stacked in packages, one on top of the other. Number 3. The Australian Sea Container. In 2014, 2.8 tons of methamphetamine pills were seized in Australia, worth about $1.5 billion. The drugs were confiscated from a sea cargo container that had 121 timber logs embedded in it, 14 of which were used to hide the drugs. The logs had been cut in two and glued back together after the drugs were hidden in them. This must have taken a lot of effort to execute. Number 2. The San Francisco Bust. The San Francisco Bust of 1991 was such a big deal that heroin addicts were completely affected. There was also footage of the stash being confiscated, which was released to the public. So what was confiscated? Well, 1,059 pounds of China white heroin arrived from Thailand, but was intercepted by the police, who had already received intel that the stash was coming in. The drugs seized were valued at about $3 billion, which was a lot more than the DEA budget in 2010. The next one is so bizarre that no one could have thought drugs could be so much that they could literally be distributed around the United States. Number 1. The California Haul. 21 tons of cocaine was confiscated from a storage facility in 1989. You might be convinced that that's a lot of cocaine, but it is quite insignificant compared to the cocaine confiscated a year before. The cocaine was said to be worth an estimated $13 billion. The bust took place in the hillocks of the San Gabriel Mountains in a house owned by Rafael Munoz Talavera, a drug lord. The seized drugs were so much that they could be distributed across the entire United States at that time, and every resident would have access to 6 lines of cocaine. What do you think? Do you have any drugs busts that you would love to see on this list? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more criminal profiles. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.